I mean, but everyone needs to face it. Your grandparents fucked and they had foreplay and they talked dirty to each other. Everybody needs to know that.
American Timelines is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network. Find out more at queencitypodcastnetwork.com.
So now I'm obsessed with time. Come on, tell me about the time. Had it all in my hand tonight. Had the time of my life. When the words all come down like blues on Tuesdays come down. Throw it all away.
Welcome to another episode of American Timelines. I'm Amy and that's Joe.
And we are happy that Amy's back, aren't we, folks?
And
I know
yes, I am back.
Yes, all these listeners that are like, oh, no, not another one without Amy every time somebody else is on here.
Well, I've been through it, y'all.
Yeah, she has.
There's some deathly plague going through our family.
Yeah, we all been sick.
And, just life and
then
the things.
life has been crazy with work and just.
Yeah.
She's a teacher, and teachers have the hardest job, I think, and don't get appreciated, and then they treat them like shit. And
especially behavior-focused teachers.
Yeah, it's rough.
We should get paid more. You should get paid more if you deal with behaviors.
Exactly. Like it's like hell going to work. You're like Michelle Pfeiffer in that movie.
Yeah, right.
What's that movie?
White Savior.
About Coolio.
Yeah.
Kind of. Anyway, we're going to jump into 1943 real fast here because we got so much to cover.
Let's do it.
I don't know that this is going to be, like I've said,
it's probably going to be a deuce.
Yeah, we'll have to do 2 episodes on 1943
with
Amy, which everybody will be happy because everybody loves you.
And school's winding up, so I'll be able to do it.
Yeah, so we'll have more time. But, because there's just so much, it's so hard to pick and choose what to not cover, and if I don't cover something, then it's like not fair to the thing I didn't cover. But not that anybody cares. Oh, bless you.
Sorry.
Anyway, Amy's sick. She's going to be coughing. So, let's just jump right into 1943, shall we?
All right.
This is a timeline episode, everybody. A regular timeline episode. So, let's jump into the timeline, motherfuckers. 1943. And you know how when we start a new year?
Yeah, there's stuff that doesn't have a date.
Yep, stuff that doesn't have a date. So, I'm going to tell you some of these things.
Okay.
We don't have the exact date, but we know it's 1943. The first person diagnosed with autism was in 1943.
Oh, really?
Donald Triplett. Have you heard of this guy?
No.
In Mississippi. He was an American banker, and he was first diagnosed by Leo Kanner.
He was a banker?
He was a banker, yeah.
Oh, for some reason I would have thought it would be somebody that was much more severely affected by autism.
Well, yeah, wait till you hear. Like he was the first one diagnosed because I think they wouldn't have diagnosed somebody in severe cases. They don't even.
They just
remember back then. They don't care about those people.
That's true.
They don't care what they are. Oh, they're just crazy. Put them in whatever. So it would have to be somebody who's sort of functioning. Yeah, something weird. I think he was diagnosed by Leo Kanner, and he was labeled as Case 1. Triplett was noted for his savant abilities, particularly the ability to name musical notes played on a piano, and the ability to perform rapid mental multiplication.
Wow.
Initially, Donald Triplett was a deeply introverted child who did not respond to his parents' gestures or voices. His language was unusual. He did not play with other children, and he seemed distant from others. He was institutionalized at 3 years of age, but his parents pulled him out 1 year later.
Good.
Interested in number patterns, music notes, letters of the alphabet, and pictures of U.S. presidents. At age 1, his father recalled he could hum and sing many tunes accurately. At 1 year old, his parents had great difficulty getting him to eat.
That is a nightmare for every parent
people,
of somebody with autism.
Someone with autism, they just don't want to eat.
Their diets. Oh.
By the age of 2, he had the ability to recite the 23rd Psalm in the Old Testament and memorize 25 questions and answers from a Presbyterian catechism.
Oh, my God.
At Christmas that year, he sang with perfect intonation, when he's 2, an entire song he had heard only once.
Oh, my God.
He had meltdowns and was afraid of being spanked.
Yeah.
He was, however, unable to associate his meltdowns with the punishment.
Right.
So it was like they didn't know how to do,
Right.
That's part of the problem with autism.
Right.
They
can't make the connection.
Yeah. Cause doesn't match the effect for them. So
yeah.
He displayed echolalia and had trouble with remembering pronouns, often using you to refer to himself and I to refer to the person he was speaking to.
Yeah.
And when he'd enter a room, he'd go to the toys right away and ignore all the people.
I would do that too.
Yeah, you do that. Yeah, you should do that. But he Yeah. So that's just the first guy. There you go.
I love that.
Autism.
That's a good
There's
one.
a little bit more about him, but we got to.
Yeah, we got a lot to
Talk
do.
about other stuff, yeah. During World War II, the NFL lost so many players because they left for military service. So in the 1943 season, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers were forced to merge into one team.
The Flegels?
The Pennsylvania Steagles.
Oh, I wasn't too far off.
Yeah, I don't know where you got the Flegel part, but Steelers and Eagles. Steagles.
I was just trying to guess.
Yeah, well, you were wrong.
I guess.
You guessed wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, Philip Van Doren Stern could not find a publisher for a short story called The Greatest Gift in 1943, so he printed 200 copies of the short story.
There's a wasp in here.
That's fine. That's the garage. That's what it's for.
Okay.
Anyway, he couldn't get the short story published called The Greatest Gift, this guy. You know who Philip Van Doren Stern is?
No.
Well, he wrote this story called The Greatest Gift, and nobody would publish it, so he printed 200 copies and sent them out as Christmas gifts. Some movie producers saw the story and bought the film rights, and it was adapted to a film called It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh.
You ever hear that one?
Yes.
Boom. That's how it came to be.
Very good.
So if you're listening to this and you're a writer and you're trying to get published, just send out every book you have out to 200 people for Christmas.
Yeah, you never know.
And maybe somebody will publish it. In 1943, the U.S. Mint produced steel pennies instead of copper, because copper was needed in shell casings.
Yeah.
Excuse me. World War II news and information. During World War II, the acronym BAM stood for Broad-Ass Marines, or women soldiers. They called them Broad-Ass Marines.
Oh.
BAM. But just when you get mad that that's misogynistic, the U.S. Marine Corps, the women called the men hams.
Which stood for what?
Hairy-ass Marines.
Well, there you go.
There you go. U.S. officials banned sliced bread as a wartime conservation measure.
Huh. God, when you that sliced bread is a nice convenience. I mean,
It's nice to have sliced bread.
to have to slice your own bread. Come on. You can't ever get it even.
Who's got time for that?
I know.
U.S. officials, sorry, I already said that. 80% of males born in the Soviet Union in 1923 did not survive World War II.
How many?
The ones born in 1923, 80% of those males,
Yeah.
because they're all old enough to fight now,
Oh,
20 years old,
jeez.
80% did not survive World War II.
Wow.
Jimmy Stewart is the highest-ranking actor in military history.
Oops.
He was a brigadier general. Is that how you say it? Brigadier general?
I think so.
He was a World War II veteran and a Vietnam War veteran and a licensed commercial pilot. Did you know that about Jimmy Stewart?
I did know he was. I did know he was in the
know he
military.
served.
I've seen pictures of him in uniform.
Disney released a movie in 1943 during World War II called Der Fuhrer's Face, which depicted Donald Duck having a nightmarish time in the Nazi regime.
Oh my God!
It's the only Donald Duck film to win an Academy Award.
So it must have been
I've
good.
never heard of that. I didn't know
No.
that happened. The USA and England agreed not to use nuclear weapons against someone without each other's consent.
Well, at least there's that.
Yeah. During World War II, roughly...
Good thing there's no crazy, like, dictator-like person that might become the leader of one of those countries.
Thank God.
Thank God for that.
During World War II, roughly 3,860 kamikaze pilots died.
Wow.
That's how many died. Guess what percentage of kamikaze attacks managed to hit a ship? You want to guess?
A percentage?
Yeah, what percentage of
Probably
kamikaze?
10,
19.
19%. That's
Yeah,
it.
Yep.
God, how could you miss? if
Almost
you're,
4,000 died. I don't know.
I mean, you're just driving into it, right?
I guess if you're crazy enough to just kill yourself,
Yeah.
you're probably not that good at anything. I'm guessing. I don't know.
I don't know if that's
A bridge,
correlates.
a bridge in southern Hungary was found to be still rigged with dynamite from World War II in October of 1999.
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy?
That is
They
crazy.
had to evacuate everybody, and I guess it's still a thing. I think they still find bombs in places, weird places.
Like, especially, did they use landmines?
Yeah,
Yeah. So especially probably that.
I'm sure. Yeah. Due to food rationing during the Second World War, people in the U.S. were encouraged to stretch their sugar rations by sweetening foods with maple syrup and maple sugar. And recipe books were printed to help housewives employ this alternative source to cane sugar.
Yeah, I could see that.
Maple syrup could work. Nikola Tesla
Yeah.
You remember that guy?
Yeah.
He once paid an overdue hotel bill with a working model of his death beam. He said, "Here is my death beam.
Yeah.
Be careful. Don't open it without taking proper precautions to avoid detonation." But after he died in 1943, then they pried the box open. They found nothing but a bunch of old spare lab components.
That's funny.
So he lied.
You told him it was a death beam.
Yeah. Philip Morris ran an ad in 1943 acknowledging smoker's cough.
Oh.
But they claimed it was caused by smoking brands other than Philip Morris.
Oh, yeah, right.
Jane Russell made famous the conical bra in 1943.
Yes.
Cone bras?
Cone bras.
Oh, man, I wish they'd bring those back.
I think they're very uncomfortable.
Oh,
they don't look very comfortable
Comfort's not the point of it.
at all. What is the point
Swing.
of it?
Aren't bras just to get guys all excited? All of them?
No.
I'm just kidding. Packard Motors promoted... wait, this should have a date to it. I don't know why it doesn't have a date. But anyway, Packard Motors promoted 3 black Americans to work next to whites on the assembly line, causing 25,000 workers to leave and go on strike because they were mad that black people...
Oh, my God.
Isn't it awful? This is the 40s. You got to remember, this is the 40s. Before
anything.
Yeah. After 3 days on strike... Not saying it's okay, but it's just this is what the time it was.
Yeah.
After 3 days on strike, government and union leaders negotiated with Packard to suspend 30 of the strike agitators, causing the remainder of the strikers to reevaluate the importance of their jobs. And then workers returned to Packard, but of course, racial discrimination did not stop.
No.
Did you know that in 1943, nachos were invented?
Oh.
Nachos did not exist until 1943.
Thank God for that.
Do you want to hear the story of how they got their
Sure.
name and how it happened? So they originated in the city of Piedras Negras, Coahuila, in Mexico. Coahuila. Across the border from Eagle Pass, Texas, in the U.S., right? So a fella named Ignacio Nacho Anaya. I guess Nacho was a nickname for Ignacio. Ignacio is a name.
Oh.
Ignacio Anaya. They called him Nacho. He created them in 1943 at the restaurant The Victory Club when Mamie Finan, who was a regular, and a group of U.S. military officers' wives whose husbands were stationed in the nearby U.S. Army base Fort Duncan, traveled across the border to eat at the Victory Club. When Anaya was unable to find the cook, he went to the kitchen and spotted some freshly fried pieces of corn tortillas. In a moment of culinary inspiration, he cut them into triangles, added shredded cheese, quickly heated them, adding sliced pickled jalapenos, and served them. After tasting the snack, Finan asked what it was called, and he said, "Well, I guess we could just call them Nachos Special." In Spanish,
Oh.
Nacho is a common nickname for Ignacio. So there you go.
Well, that was delightful. I'm glad
Then
they did
everybody
that.
was like, "Holy shit, these are fucking great." Everybody eat nachos.
Everybody loves nachos.
I love nachos. I want some nachos right now.
I kind of do, too.
Somebody go get me some nachos.
Well, we haven't eaten dinner, so.
If you're listening to this, wherever you are, in your car, wherever, immediately stop whatever you're doing, go to the store and get
Some
the
nachos.
stuff to get nachos, and then go home and make nachos. If you're at home, just make some nachos while you listen to the rest of this.
Yeah, what are you doing?
All right. January 1st, 1943, the Georgia Bulldogs defeated the UCLA Bruins 9-0 in the Rose Bowl before a crowd of 93,000 as the postseason college football game returned to Pasadena after it had moved because they were afraid to be on the coast because of the war. Georgia had been ranked number 2 in the final AP Press Bowl, while number 1 Ohio State didn't play in a bowl game for some reason. I don't get it. January 3rd, 1943 was a Sunday. The 20-room Hollywood mansion of Bing Crosby was destroyed by fire
Oh, my.
after a short circuit caused a blaze to break out while the family was taking down its Christmas tree.
It was
Poor
a
Bing
short
Crosby.
circuit.
Yeah.
Bing Crosby was, like, I think, a
Asshole,
horrible,
right?
yeah.
He beat the hell out of his family.
I think he did.
Or alcoholic.
Yeah, I think he is.
Doris Kearns Goodwin was born on January 4th, 1943. You know who that is? Mm-hmm. I love her. January 5th was a Tuesday, and George Washington Carver died. 78-year-old African-American inventor and botanist. Carver had suffered complications from injuries sustained when he had fallen down a flight of stairs.
Oh, wow.
Yep. He was found unconscious by a maid who took him to a
I'm
hospital.
surprised that you don't think of him being alive in the 40s. Because
Yeah.
you think of him as like an 1800s.
You think of him as like an ancient guy.
Yeah.
But no, yeah. He was 78 or 79.
So,
So
yeah.
you think about, I mean, it was the 1800s
when he was born.
Yeah. Yeah, and he didn't have a bunch of money, but he was very frugal and his life savings totaled $60,000, I think, and he wasn't. On his grave was written, "He could have added fortune to fame, but caring for neither, he found happiness and honor in being helpful to the world." He was more about being helpful, than collecting money, which we all should be. Mm-hmm. The U.S. Office of Price Administration banned pleasure driving in 17 states in the eastern U.S. beginning at noon on Thursday for gas. Yeah. A fire at the bowling alley in the Southside Beverly Recreation Hall in Chicago killed 6 people and left 35 hospitalized. The flames quickly moved across bowling lanes that had flammable shellac on them. Oh, my. That stuff is flammable.
Is it still, I wonder?
I'm sure shellac is flammable.
I wonder if they put something in it.
They probably have better fire codes now.
Put, like, fire retardant in it or something.
Yeah. Say January 7th, 1943 was a Thursday, and U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt delivered the annual State of the Union speech to a joint session of Congress. Revealing that there were 7 million men in the armed services, of which 1.5 million were overseas, and stated that I am confident that though the fighting will be tough, when the final Allied assault is made, the last vestige of Axis power will be driven from the south shores of the Mediterranean. Roosevelt said also that the bombing of Germany and Italy would continue to increase during 1943, adding, yes, the Nazis and fascists have asked for it, and they're going to get it.
Yeah. We're lucky that nothing ever beside Pearl Harbor. Like, we didn't see any fighting.
It's crazy that there hasn't really been war here since
the Civil War.
Knock on wood. Hopefully that continues.
Yeah.
January 10th, 1943, the America First Party was established in Detroit. America First. America First. Guess who says that? Mm-hmm. And this party was established in Detroit by an isolationist crusader, Gerald L.K. Smith, who was an anti-Semite, a preeminent anti-Semite, and a white supremacist.
Of course he was.
So that's who says America First, unfortunately. January 12th, 1943 was a Tuesday, and the parents of the Sullivan brothers, 5 men from Waterloo, Iowa, who had served together on the USS Juneau, were informed that their sons had been listed as missing in action. All 5 of them. Since the sinking of that ship, since that ship sunk in November, the loss of George, Francis, Joseph, Madison, and Albert Sullivan was reported as the heaviest blow suffered by any single family since Pearl Harbor, and probably in American naval history. That's the story that what was that movie with Tom Hanks is based on that?
Oh, was it?
About the brothers
Saving Private Ryan or
Saving Private Ryan, I think. Yeah, because all of his brothers died and they needed to keep the one alive, I think. I think really? Saving Private Ryan. I think there's another movie based on that, too. January 15th, 1943 was a Friday, and Jarvis Roosevelt Cato died. He was a 36-year-old American serial killer who strangled 10 women between 1935 and 1941. He was executed with an electric chair in New York. You might want to take note of that guy. You can cover him when we get in the 30s.
Yeah.
And at this point, we have a new number 1 song on the Billboard charts on January 16th. There Are Such Things by Tommy Dorsey and his orchestra. Let's see if we play that in the background. Number 1 song, Billboard chart, Tommy Dorsey. And then January 18th, War Food Order Number 1 went into effect in the U.S., requiring for the first time that white bread be enriched with the nutrients niacin, riboflavin, thiamine, and iron. All right, I'll turn that off now. Although the federal order expired at the end of World War II, most of the states of the U.S. would continue that requirement after the war by legislation. So they realized that everybody was unhealthy.
Yeah, so they needed to do something.
Like, beef up the bread. But everybody was really unhealthy. January 19th, 1943 was a goddamn Tuesday. And rock singer born in Port Arthur, Texas.
Yeah.
Want to guess who the rock singer is? 1940. I'm just going to tell you right now, the birthdays in 1943 are unbelievable.
A rock singer?
Yep.
Uh,
Born in Port Arthur, Texas on January 19th, 1943. Born to mother Dorothy Bonita East, a registrar at a business college, and her husband, Seth Ward Joplin, an engineer at
Janis
Texaco.
Joplin.
Yes, Janis Joplin had 2 younger siblings, Laura and Michael. The family attended First Christian Church of Port Arthur, a church belonging to the Christian Church denomination. Her parents felt Janis needed more attention than their other children. As a teenager, she befriended a group of outcasts, one of whom had albums by blues artists Bessie Smith, Ma Rainey, and Leadbelly, which Joplin later credited with influencing her decision to become a singer. She began singing blues and folk music with friends at Thomas Jefferson High School.
Good for her.
And she was a classmate of Pro Football Hall of Fame coach Jimmy Johnson. Didn't know that.
Oh.
Anyway, she said she was ostracized and bullied in high school. As a teen, she became overweight and suffered from acne, leaving her with deep scars that required dermabrasion. Other kids at high school would routinely taunt her and call her names like pig, freak, N-word lover, or creep. And she stated, "I was a misfit. I read, I painted, I thought, and I didn't hate N-words." So
Jeez.
she was treated like that. And she became Janis Joplin. Rest in peace, Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
January 22nd was a Friday. In one of the fastest weather-related increases in temperature on record, the Weather Bureau in Spearfish, South Dakota, noted an increase from -4 degrees Fahrenheit at 7:30 a.m. to 45 degrees 2 minutes later.
Whoa, how?
-4 to 45, 2 minutes later, 7:32 a.m.
That's crazy.
Which an investigator concluded was the result of the wavering motion of a pronounced quasi-stationary front separating continental Arctic air from the maritime polar air, possibly contributed to by a Chinook wind.
Or it could have been a ghost.
You know.
Cold spots.
Well, that's a quasi-stationary front.
Could be a cold spot.
After peaking at 54 degrees Fahrenheit at 9 a.m., the temperature was back at 4 below by 9:27.
Oh.
54 degrees to 4 below.
That's crazy.
Anyway.
That's crazy.
Also, that same day, photographer Margaret Bork White, she became the first woman to ever fly along on a U.S. Army Air Force bombing mission, accompanying the 97th Bomb Group on a B-17 bomber, the Little Bill, which was attacking a German-held airfield in Tunis. So there you go. Got some pictures. January 23rd, 1943 was a Saturday. The classic film Casablanca, starring Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman, was released nationwide.
Yes.
Did you ever see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Coincidentally,
I haven't seen it in a long time, so.
Well, coincidentally, President Roosevelt was secretly in the Moroccan capital of Casablanca at the time of the film's release. How weird is that?
Oh.
Many of the actors who played the Nazis in that movie were, in fact, German Jews who had escaped from Nazi Germany.
Oh, wow.
So I guess there's all kinds of scenes and stuff where they're, like, really emotional stuff that I don't know. Like, actors were real emotional about this stuff, I think. Or
right.
I don't know. But
I
if they're
guess
playing
so.
Nazis, I don't know. Anyway, January 28th, 1943 was a Thursday. And that's the day that Glyndwr Michael, a 34-year-old Welsh homeless man, died. His body would later be used for Britain's Operation Mincemeat.
Oh.
Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Operation Mincemeat used this homeless guy's body to deceive Axis intelligence into expecting an attack on Italy to start from Sardinia rather than Sicily. So later in April, I'll brush over. I'm going to do a whole deep dive, I think, with Hunter Brame about this because it's a crazy thing. So they put fake credentials on this guy's body and dumped him somewhere, and he had top secret plans on him that was to divert them and make them think that they were going to go somewhere they didn't.
Oh, wow.
So they used this homeless guy's body. It's kind of weird.
That is weird.
And so we're going to talk about that in a special episode, Operation Mincemeat.
All right.
So we're jumping into February here.
Sure.
And the 442nd Infantry Regiment, whose soldiers were Nisei, which are Americans of Japanese ancestry. This regiment was created with these folks by order of U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt. He said that no natural citizen of the U.S. should be denied the democratic right to exercise the responsibilities of his citizenship, regardless of his ancestry. Although most Nisai in the mainland U.S. were still kept in internment camps at the time. So go figure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, he's wanting them to fight, but they're in camps. Why would they want to fight? February 6th was a Saturday. Los Angeles court acquitted the movie star Errol Flynn of 3 rape charges.
Yeah.
And I was gonna have you cover this, but you declined. But were you aware of this whole thing?
Yeah, I have heard that he was a rapist. Yeah.
So in late 1942, 2 17-year-old girls, Betty Hansen and Peggy Satterley, separately accused Errol Flynn of statutory rape. And it happened at the Bel Air home of Flynn's friend Frederick McAvoy and onboard Flynn's yacht, Sirocco, respectively. The scandal received immense press attention, and many of Flynn's fans founded an organization to publicly protest the accusation. One such group, the American Boys Club for the Defense of Errol Flynn, ABCDEF, accumulated a substantial membership that included William F. Buckley Jr. So these fans, not having any idea about the evidence, just because he's so great,
right?
Like formed this thing just to say. That's the annoying thing about fanhood. That was kind of how Trump's popular. It's a crazy fanhood.
Or like Michael Jackson, same thing. Like,
yeah,
no matter what
same
the
kind
evidence
of thing.
is,
Those people, yeah,
they just
anyway. The trial took place, and he was acquitted. But the trial's widespread coverage and lurid overtones permanently damaged Errol Flynn's career, his career and carefully cultivated screen image as an idealized romantic leading player. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure it damaged the girls way worse. You know, so.
Right. Let's all feel bad for him.
Yeah. Awful. Anyway, February 8th, 1943 was a Monday, and U.S. Economic Stabilization Director James F. Burns ordered a temporary ban on the sale of shoes until Tuesday, when rationing would begin.
Wow.
And that's because of leather.
Leather, that's what I was going to say.
Limited, yeah. So from February 10th, at least through June, one pair of shoes could be purchased only by using stamp number 17.
Can you imagine? There is no way this day and age rationing would ever go and
anybody
fly.
Would follow it.
Nobody would.
Everybody would hoard
people
everything.
would. Oh my God! People would mutiny.
Yep.
People would say it's communism, even if it was in a wartime effort.
Yeah. Well, house slippers, ballet slippers, and baby shoes were exempt from the order because they weren't made of leather.
Yeah.
So yeah, nobody would do it. People wouldn't. That's crazy. They're saying there's a huge shortage of people fighting too. Like there's not. Our military is like.
Oh, I know.
Record low numbers because nobody wants to enlist.
Yeah.
February 9th, 1943. U.S. President Roosevelt issued an executive order establishing a minimum wartime work week of 48 hours in 32 American cities. Everybody had to mandatorily work overtime because they had a shortage of employees because everyone's overseas. How about that? It was only in It was in like larger cities: Baltimore, Buffalo, Detroit, Vegas, Portland, San Diego, Seattle, D.C. And some other smaller ones. And that same day, February 9th, 1943, Joe Pesci was born. American film actor known for Raging Bull, Goodfellas, My Cousin Vinny. He was born in Newark, New Jersey. His mother, Maria, worked part-time as a barber, and his father, Angelo, was a forklift truck driver for GM and a bartender.
Wait.
He was raised in Belleville, New Jersey, graduated from Belleville High School, home of the Buccaneers. By the time Pesci was 5 years old, he was appearing in plays in New York. At age 10, he was a regular on a television variety show called Startime Kids, which also featured Connie Francis, who he went to school with.
Oh.
Yeah, how about that? As an entertainer, he was acquainted with guitarist Tommy DeVito of the Four Lovers, a novelty act from Belleville that included, among others, singer Frankie Valli. Pesci also knew keyboardist Bob Gaudio of the Royal Teens.
Is there a reason we're going on and on?
Yeah, because Pesci introduced Gaudio to DeVito and Frankie Valli, 1958, which led to the formation of the band The Four Seasons.
Okay.
Joe Pesci made the Four Seasons happen. You would have never known that. And he was friends with some mafia guys, too.
Of course.
Anyway, February 10th, 1943 was a Wednesday, and a lady named Mrs. Vesta Stout was a hero. She was an ordnance factory worker from Sterling, Illinois, the mother of two sons who were in the U.S. Navy. She wrote to President Roosevelt with her idea for what would later become duct tape.
Ah, a woman?
Yep, a woman. She described it as strong cloth tape that had waterproof wax coating designed to seal boxes of ammunition, but could also be opened quickly. And she was unable to persuade her supervisors at the plant that it would be something to use, like it'd be improvement over thin tape. But Roosevelt liked the idea, and on March 26, 1943, the War Production Board would inform Mrs. Stout that it had approved the idea.
Oh, I hope she got a lot of money.
She probably got nothing.
She probably got nothing.
Yeah. And on February 13th, 1943, a Saturday, the creation of the new U.S. Marine Corps Women's Reserve was announced, along with goals to recruit 1,000 officers and 18,000 enlisted women.
Well, that's because they were hard up.
Yeah, they needed something. So, okay, now women can fight,
Yeah.
anything. And then Harry James and his orchestra hit number 1 on the Billboard charts with I Had the Craziest Dream.
I had the craziest dream.
You know that song?
Yeah.
That's cool. I'll put it in post with you singing it.
No, don't.
You're a good singer. February 17th, Major League Baseball star Joe DiMaggio, whose draft eligibility was deferred because of his 3A classification, enlisted in the U.S. Army.
In what year?
1943.
1943.
February 17th.
Yeah.
One biographer would note that unlike fellow major leaguers Bob Feller, Cecil Travis, Warren Spahn, and others, he never ventured anywhere near the battlefield and spent the war playing baseball with the 7th Army Air Force team.
Well,
You can't kill Joe DiMaggio.
No.
February 19th, 1943, a Mexican farmer named Dionisio Pulido had a volcano start to form in his cornfield.
Oh, my God.
By the early 50s, it was over 400 meters tall.
Meters. What is this? Britain?
Yeah. Before he had to evacuate and leave his home because of this giant volcano that showed up in his yard,
Yeah.
he put a sign out that said, "This volcano is owned and operated by Dionisio Pulido." It was the first volcano.
Trying to make money off of it.
It was the first volcano birth ever seen by man. At 4:30 p.m. on February 19th, the Mexican volcano Paracutin broke the surface of a cornfield and began increasing in size through ash, stone, and rock. By the next morning, the volcanic mound was already 30 feet high.
Oh, my God.
Overnight, 30 feet high volcano in
crazy.
your backyard. At the end of the week, it had reached 400 feet and was sending material half a mile into the sky.
Really?
Yep. Within a year, after the whole village was evacuated, the volcano was 1,100 feet tall. It would peak at 2,000 feet.
Wow.
After 9 years and 5 days of smoke and lava flows, it would suddenly cease on February 25th, 1952.
You just ate up the town.
Yeah. Can you imagine that?
That's crazy.
February 22nd, 1943, Pan Am World Airways Flight 9035 from New York to Lisbon crashed while attempting to land. 25 of the 39 people on board were killed, most of them on tour for the USO to entertain American troops in Europe. Were killed when the Boeing 314 AC plane, nicknamed the Yankee Clipper, went down in the Tagus River. Jane Froman was one of the 15 seriously injured survivors. Do you know who Jane Froman is?
No.
She's an actress, I think.
Huh.
Performer. February 25th, 1943. Same year Janis Joplin was born, and Joe Pesci. George Harrison, British rock musician for the Beatles, was born in Liverpool. That's not American, though, so I'm going to skip it. February 27th, pilot Nancy Harkness Love, one of the 29 pilots in the Women's Auxiliary Ferrying Squadron, became the first woman to be certified to fly a P-51 Mustang pursuit plane, and would later be the first woman cleared to fly several other military aircraft.
Sweet.
And I got Hunter Brame, who's a pilot, who's been filling in on some of these deep dives. I have him doing some research on these lady pilots
Sweet.
for a special deep dive episode that we'll be doing. February 28th, 1943 was a Sunday. In Operation Gunnerside, the Norsk Hydro plant at Vermak in Norway, being used by The Nazi-German nuclear research program was successfully sabotaged by Norwegian SOE commandos. And this isn't American, but I want to keep this in here because these commandos used skis to reach the plant, entered through a service tunnel, and placed time-explosive charges on the tanks of heavy water and the electrolysis chambers needed to produce the oxide liquid for bombs that the Nazis were working on. And the blast destroyed the entire inventory of the heavy water that had been produced by the Germans. So they skied in, planted bombs, and skied out. And boom. Sabotage.
Wow.
Sabotage. All right. And March 4th, 1943, the 15th Academy Awards ceremony was held only the 15th in Los Angeles. Mrs. Miniver won Best Picture. I watched that when I was watching all those Best Pictures.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And Greer Garson, do you know who that is?
Yes.
She won Best Picture for that
Best Actress
movie. She won Best Actress and gave what is probably, they say, the longest acceptance speech in Academy Awards history.
Best performance by any actress in 1942 to lovely Greer Garson, Mrs. Miniver.
Ladies and gentlemen, I came to this country as a stranger 5 years ago. I've been very happy and very proud to be a member of this community and of this industry. All that time. And from everybody I met or worked with, truly, I have received such ready kindness that for quite a long while I couldn't believe that it was true. But tonight, you have made me feel that you have really set the door of your friendship wide open, and that welcome is officially on the mat. And that is why I'm so happy.
So dramatic.
Isn't that funny how people spoke?
And
I feel like people spoke like that. I mean,
I know.
People spoke weird in the 40s. I think. In movies, they're all weird. But anyway. The Universal horror film Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, starring Lon Chaney Jr. and Bela Lugosi, was released on March 5th, 1943.
Sweet.
You never saw that one, though, did you?
I didn't see that one, I don't think.
Frankenstein and Wolfman. And then March 6th, 1943, I've Heard That Song Before by Harry James.
Okay.
You know that one?
I don't know about that one.
Hit the Billboard charts.
Oh, yeah. Da, 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 da,
you know this?
Da, 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 da.
You've heard this song before? You do. That's pretty good skill to know this old shit.
Oh, I've heard it a lot. It's in movies and stuff. I've watched a lot of
you
movies.
watch a lot of 40s movies. You're a 40s fan.
50s, really, but...
Well, you like 40s for the racism, I think.
No, I don't...
March 13th, 1943 was a Saturday, and a plot called Operation Flash, German officer Hennig von Tresckow attempted to assassinate Adolf Hitler by arranging for an unwitting officer to carry aboard Hitler's plane a parcel, thinking it contained a gift of liquor, when it actually contained a bomb.
Wow.
All went according to plan, and Hitler's plane took off from Smolensk to Rastenburg with a parcel on board, but it failed to explode due to a faulty detonator.
Oh, I could have...
Hitler could have been dead.
Yeah, I could have ended.
Yeah, I thought that was amazing. I didn't know he had those attempts on his life. March 17th, 1943, St. Patrick's Day was a Wednesday. The Washington Bears, an all-black basketball team, defeated the all-white Oshkosh All-Stars.
What?
43-31 to win the championship of the World Professional Basketball Tournament held in Chicago. The victory completed a season in which the Bears won all 41 of their games.
Yeah, I guess.
I can't believe the white guys scored 31 points.
I know, against an all-black team.
Yeah. They probably felt like they had to let the white guys score.
Right.
Or else they'd get beat up because of racism. Mm-hmm. March 21st, 1943. It was a Sunday. The second attempt on Hitler's life in the space of 8 days was made.
Oh, man.
This time by Rudolf Christopher Freiherr von Gersdorf, who had been given the opportunity to escort Hitler through an exhibition of captured Soviet war equipment at the Zughaus in Berlin. Gersdorf, who had expected Hitler to spend at least 30 minutes by his side, set a 10-minute fuse on a time bomb and made plans to kill himself and Hitler in a suicide bombing. Instead, Hitler rushed through the viewing and left after 2 minutes. And Gersdorf bid his goodbyes and went into a restroom and defused the explosive.
Oh.
He was too fast.
Darn it.
That wily Hitler.
I know it.
March 30th, 1943. Near Camden, South Carolina, the men of the 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment bailed out in the first mass parachute jump in American history with 2,000 soldiers in the sky at once.
Wow.
Can you imagine? How do they not hit each other?
I know.
And get all tangled. March 31st, 1943 was a Wednesday in Oklahoma. The music by Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein II opened on Broadway. 10 years later, Oklahoma would be described as a new musical that broke all the rules. It had no big-name stars, no bare-legged chorus, and worst of all, it contained a highbrow ballet. The show went on to become Broadway's longest-running musical up to that time, closing in 1948.
I was in Oklahoma in high school.
You were?
I was Lori. I was the main girl.
You were the main one?
Yep.
You were a star from the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Well, same day Oklahoma opened on Broadway, another American actor known for playing gangsters was born in Queens. Same year Joe Pesci was born. Born in Queens, New York City.
Yeah.
His birth name was Ronald, not Christopher. On March 31st, 1943, in Astoria, Queens, New York City. His parents were Rosalie Russell, a Scottish immigrant from Glasgow, and Paul Walken, a German immigrant from Gelsenkirchen, who owned and operated Walken's Bakery in Astoria. His name was Ronald Walken. He and his brothers Kenneth and Glenn were child actors on television in the 50s, influenced by their mother's dreams of stardom. I didn't know he was a child actor.
Yeah.
Here's a little thing about Christopher Walken. When he was 15, a girlfriend showed Walken a magazine photo of Elvis Presley, and Walken later said, "This guy looked like a Greek god." Then I saw him on television. I loved everything about him. So he changed his hairstyle to imitate Presley, and has not changed his hairstyle since.
No, he has not.
And as a teenager, he worked as a lion tamer trainee for a short time in the circus.
Oh, my God.
Here are things about Christopher Walken you need to know. He was a
guess.
lion tamer. That's hilarious.
That is funny.
Christopher Walken, baby. More cowbell. April 1st, 1943 was a Thursday. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Sig Sally, all caps, Sigsally.
No.
It referred to the X-System vocoder, or Green Hornet, which went into operation for use in secure phone conversations between the U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt and U.K. Prime Minister Winston Churchill. The new system, developed by AT&T's Bell Labs, encrypted speech into electronic signals that could be transmitted at the rate of 1,551 bits per second and decrypted it at the other end, permitting the two wartime leaders to talk to each other without being understood by wiretappers.
Oh, that's important.
Yeah. And so they had to have these giant terminals to do this at the time. These giant terminals. So the transatlantic calls in America was at the Pentagon, is where they did it. And in London, it was in the basement of Selfridge's department store. I don't know why.
Oh, my.
I guess they didn't have a secure place. April 4th, 1943 was a Sunday. Lady Be Good, an American B-24 bomber, became lost over the North African desert after completing a bombing raid in Italy, ran out of gas, and crashed after its crew parachuted to safety. The 9-member crew died of thirst one by one over the next 8 days. That'd be the worst.
That would.
For nearly 16 years, Lady Be Good will remain missing until its discovery on February 27th, 1959. The bodies of the men will be found almost a year after that, 1960. Guy named William Dias, who I think I'm going to make Hunter Brame talk about, was able to escape from a Japanese prisoner of war camp in the Philippines.
Yikes.
Along with 9 other men.
The Japanese had some evil shit going on. It made the Holocaust look like child's play.
Yeah, what they were doing, yeah.
Like that, what is it called? The Japanese, something for, it's like a number.
Of what they tortured people?
No, it's I'll have to look. You keep talking.
Well, he made his way through the jungle into a ship that transported him to Australia. Once free, he would be able to reveal to the world the atrocities of the Bataan Death March that had taken place after U.S. and Philippine forces surrendered on April 9, 1942.
Unit 731.
Okay, what's that?
Experiments included disease injections, controlled dehydration, biological weapon testing, hyperbaric pressure chamber testing, vivisection,
Yikes.
It was all
Bad.
human experimentation during World War II. 3,000 men, women, and children were subjected to it experiments. I should probably do that next one. Talk about Unit 731. It's brutal.
When was that? Does it have a date to it? I didn't know that existed.
It was during World War II,
Yeah.
so... Yoshimura Hisato, a physiologist in Unit 731, had a special interest in hypothermia and used human subjects to test humans' reactions to frostbite. He routinely submerged prisoners' limbs in a tub of water filled with ice and held them there until the limbs were frozen solid and a coat of ice was formed over the skin.
Yeesh.
Timed the victims to check how long it took for the human bodies to develop frostbite. The limbs made a sound like a plank of wood when struck with a cane. Then he tried different methods for rapidly thawing the frozen appendage, such as dousing limbs with hot water, open fire, or leaving the subject untreated overnight to see how long it took for the prisoner's blood to thaw out. They did prove scientifically that the best treatment for frostbite was to immerse it in a water a bit warmer than 100 degrees, but never more than 122 degrees. They did vivisections, which are performing operations on living for the purpose of experimentation and scientific research.
It's weird some of the crazy shit that came out of. I have one later about mustard gas, and they inadvertently found out that it was like they discovered chemotherapy kind of because of it, because of a bomb.
The Imperial
More
Japanese Army was also interested in the symptoms and treatment of syphilis. Male prisoners infected with syphilis were ordered to rape female and male prisoners to monitor the onset of the disease. More rapes were arranged until the exposure established infection.
Oh, jeez.
Testing human limits, rape and forced pregnancy. It was the Japanese invasion of China during the Second Sino-Japanese War. But it was during World War II.
We'll have to find a date that we can use, or
Yeah.
something. Maybe just do a deep dive on it or something.
All right, sorry.
Okay, April 8th, 1943 is a Thursday, and the Detroit Red Wings defeated the Boston Bruins 2-0 to sweep the 1943 Stanley Cup Finals. That's just in case Brian McCartney listens to this. He wants
Okay.
to know that. April 10th, 1943 was a Saturday. Former American college football star Tom Harmon, who had joined the U.S. Army Air Corps, disappeared while flying over Suriname. The only member of his crew to survive a crash in bad weather, Harmon survived for 7 days by drinking swamp water and eating rations. Harmon was able to make his way to Paramaribo and was able to rejoin his unit.
Oh
I
my
was
God.
hoping he drank some
Too
of
bad
his
he
own urine.
couldn't go home after something like that.
Yeah, I guess not. Keep
Jeez.
fighting. And then on April 11th, Harley Race, American pro wrestling star, was born in Quitman, Missouri. You know where Quitman, Missouri is?
No.
You're from Missouri.
Yeah, I've never heard of that, though.
God dang it.
Sorry.
It's Harley Race. Okay. April 14th, 1943 was a Wednesday. 4 inmates of Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary attempted to escape from the prison,
Oh, that's the other one I was going to do.
making it to the water
Yep.
when the tower guards opened fire on them. 2 of them were killed, and 1 hid until he was found 3 days later. But the body of the 4th, James Borman, was never found.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You think he got away?
No, the waters were shark
Sharks
infested
ate 'em.
and freezing, too.
April 16th, 1940 was a Friday. And at the Sandoz Laboratories in Basel, Switzerland, biochemist Albert Hoffman accidentally ingested the drug LSD for the first time in history.
Abby Hoffman.
And recorded the details of his experience.
That's right.
That's where he actually ingested it. Accidentally ingested
He went
it?
off and rode a bike or something after that.
Yeah,
And then it started taking effect while he was riding his bike.
there he is.
Yep.
April 17th was a Saturday, and the U.S. War Manpower Commission, headed by Paul V. McNutt, issued an order that prevented 27 million civilian employees from changing jobs. Basically, an employee in an essential activity could not be hired to a job that was not essential to the war effort. unless he or she remained unemployed for at least 30 days.
Oh, God.
Likewise, a vital employer could not offer a higher wage rate to lure a worker from another vital employer without 30 days between jobs.
Jeez.
Business owners and employees who violated the regulation were subject to a fine of up to $1,000 per violation and a year in prison.
Jeez.
The manpower freeze was to remain in effect until the end of the war. God, if it wasn't shitty already, you can't change jobs. Everybody sucks. It really
Everything
sucked.
sucked.
40 sucked. Mm-hmm. And that brings us to April 18th, where Amy's got something.
Yes, and it is a British timeline today for me.
Oh, British thing, huh?
Yes, on April 18th.
Okay.
4 boys made a grisly discovery in Hegley Wood in Worcestershire, England,
Worcestershire sauce.
on a stretch of private residential property. They were bird nesting in the area. They came upon a large wych elm, and one of the boys, Bob Farmer, climbed it in hopes of finding a bird nest.
Yeah.
Instead, he discovered a human skull, complete with remnants of curly brown hair inside the tree's hollow trunk.
Yeesh. Just a decapitated head?
So they weighed their options. Do we go and show people and admit we were trespassing, or do we
eat it?
Do we just pretend like we never found it, put it back, and just pretend like we never found it? So that's what they decided they were going to do.
They're going to just leave it and not tell anybody?
Right. And they made a pact not to tell. But then that night, the youngest one, Thomas Willits,
Yeah.
confesses to his parents.
Okay.
And so, unknown to the boys, though, this discovery would spark a decades-long hunt for the identity of the woman that came known as Bella, and a murder that remains unsolved to this day.
Ooh.
So police get there. They discover more than just a skull. There is a nearly complete skeleton of an adult woman stuffed inside the wych elm.
Oh, so the whole body was there.
Body's in there, yeah. There were some fragments of clothing on her remains, including a shoe and a golden wedding ring. And curiously, one of her hands had been separated from the rest of her body and was located nearby.
Weird.
Along with her body, her skull was valuable evidence because it had this very distinctive dental pattern.
Really?
Like her teeth had a very distinctive
So they
dental
knew
pattern.
it was her.
So, well, they were going to use that to try to identify her.
Well, at this point, if it's a skeleton, the hand could have been separated by animals or something, right?
Right. So there was a forensic examination. It was determined by pathologist Professor James Webster that the woman's corpse was placed within the tree while it was still warm, around 18 months before the discovery.
Wow.
He believed that based on the width of the tree's hollow trunk, they wouldn't have been able to get her in there if rigor mortis had already set in. The cause of death was determined to be suffocation from a piece of taffeta that was lodged deep in her mouth.
What's that?
It's a fabric.
No.
Very thick fabric.
Taffeta.
Because of the woman's distinctive teeth, police contacted every dentist in the country in an effort to identify her. They also ran a check of missing person cases in hopes of finding a match.
Every dentist in the country?
That's what it said. But both searches, nothing came up. So then on April 24th, 1943, the Hartlepool Northern Daily Mail published a hypothesized description of her appearance prior to her death.
April 24th?
Yeah, this is the description. Her age is given as between 25 and 40, most probably 35, height 5 foot with light brown hair and dressed in dark blue and mustard-colored striped cardigan and mustard-colored skirt, blue crepe-soled shoes, size 5.5. All the garments were described as of poor quality, and a wedding ring found among the bones was of rolled gold, probably worth 2.6 today. Hartlepool Northern Daily Mail. Admitting,
worth what today?
It said 2.6. I don't know.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Admittedly, this wasn't a whole lot of information to go off, so hundreds of leads were generated, but the true identity of the woman remained unknown.
Huh.
And the case was left in a state of limbo until 1944, when 2 pieces of mysterious graffiti were discovered. The first one read, "Who put Lubella down the wych elm?" and was found at Hayden Hill Road, Old Hill. And then the second read, "Who put Bella down the wych elm, Hagley Wood?" on a wall on Upper Dean Street, Birmingham. So this strange addition to an already strange case produced more questions than answers. At this point, the woman had not been assigned any sort of name, so the graffiti in both Old Hill and Birmingham mentioning a woman named Bella. Or Lubella implied that someone may know the identity of the woman. But who? So then on March 30th, 1944, the Evening Dispatch wrote the following about the mysterious graffiti artist. The writing was too high on the wall to have been done by boys, and the police are inclined to the view that it is the work of someone coming into the city early in the morning with farm produce.
Huh. Okay.
So were the police to consider the unknown graffiti artist as someone in the know, or was the graffiti simply a bizarre hoax? And more importantly, was the dead woman's name actually Bella?
Yeah.
There was no new leads that came from the graffiti, but it could be argued that the catchy phrase and its mysterious origin have kept the mystery of Bella in the Wych Elm alive, and well, many decades later. While iconic, the original 2 instances of graffiti didn't lead to the police to any new suspects. It was clear that whoever killed Bella was keen to keep their identity and the identity of their victims unknown. So, there's a few theories.
Okay.
While the case of her identity is still a mystery, there have been different theories put forward throughout the years. So most theories are dead ends or were so over the top that they were never actually taken seriously. But here's the following 5 theories of the leaders within the ongoing conversation attempting to finally solve
let's hear
this.
these theories because I have my own theory.
Number 1, Bella was German singer and actress Hedwig Clara Borelli. On February 1st, 41, during World War II, Joseph Jacobs parachuted into Cambridgeshire Field, suffered a broken ankle on impact. He was discovered by local farmers who promptly contacted police. Suspecting Jacobs was a spy, the case was passed over to M15, M15? I don't know. MI5?
Maybe that's a MI.
Over to the MI5, the M15. Among his belongings was a photograph of a woman later identified as German singer and actress Clara Borelli. According to Jacobs, though he wasn't considered a reliable source, Borelli was a secret agent who had parachuted into the Midlands around the same time or shortly after Joseph. It's also said that he identified her as his lover, though it doesn't appear to be true. Another version of the story says that Clara was already in the West Midlands performing in music halls and learning to hide her German accent. And it was there that she was recruited by the Gestapo. Allegedly, Joseph Jacobs and Clara Borelli never actually made contact. Details on how Clara would have ended up dead in the Wych Elm isn't a typical part of the Clara Borelli portion of the Bella in the Wych Elm folklore. The connection between Bella and Clara would have come from a disappearance of Clara from any films or recording after 1941, which was the time of Bella's death, and the photograph found on Jacobs. However, this theory was put to rest once Borelli's official death registration was located. Her cause of death was listed as a lung infection due to veronal poisoning. I don't know what that is. On December 16th, 42 in Berlin, putting her time of death about a year later than the one assigned to Bella.
Okay.
Veronal was a popular sleeping aid during the early 1900s. So it's probably an accident.
Yeah.
Fun fact, Joseph Jacobs, convicted of espionage under the Treachery Act of 1940, was executed at the Tower of London on August 15th, 1941 by firing squad. He was the last person ever to be executed at the Tower of London. All right, second theory, Bella was an unknown sex worker or a refugee.
Okay, that seems plausible.
In 1944, a local sex worker contacted the Birmingham police to report the disappearance of another sex worker named Lubella, who had vanished 3 years prior.
This seems right.
It was thought that Lubella had been lured into Hagley Wood where she was murdered by someone. Another theory put forth by police was that Bella was a refugee from the Blitz. During the Second World War, the Germans launched a bombing campaign from the skies of the UK with attacks on port and industrial cities, including Birmingham. This theory suggests that Bella, while living in Birmingham, hid in Hagley Wood during one of the air raids, since this was a known location for people to shelter from attack. But there was no further evidence from either of those theories. So then theory 3, Bella was a spy. This theory is a bit messy. A lot of points end up contradicting each other. So 1953, journalist Wilford Byford Jones revisited the still unsolved murder while writing under the pen name Quaestor for the Express and Star newspaper. He received numerous letters in response to his article, including one from a woman who went by Anna of Claverley. Her letter began with an ominous message. Finish your article, R.E. the Wych Elm crime, by all means. They are interesting to your readers, but you will never solve the mystery. The one person who could give the answer is now beyond the jurisdiction of the earthly clouds, or the earthly courts. Anna then hinted that she knew the identity of Bella's killer and that the individual died insane in 1942. She hinted that Bella was Dutch and illegally in England as of 1941. It was clear from her letter that Anna was either privy to the unknown details of the crime or she was making things up for attention. Regardless, the police persuaded her to meet with them in person along with Byford Jones, and according to Anna, her ex-husband worked among a group of pro-German conspirators who'd been siphoning information about munitions and aircraft factors in the West Midlands to Germany. She claimed that Bella was also a spy operating within the same area and that Anna's ex-husband was present when Bella's body was put in the Wych Elm. She also mentioned another Dutch citizen named Van Ralt in connection with Bella's murder. Allegedly, Bella was murdered due to her extensive knowledge of the pro-German spy ring, and her body was hidden to cover the trail of her killers. And then there's another version of Anna's story that says that her husband and Van Ralt were drinking in a local pub with Bella when she passed out. And they put her unconscious body into their car, drove it into Hagley Wood, where they put her in a tree to teach her a lesson. And when she woke up, she was unable to get out of the tree and died. But this doesn't talk about the piece of taffeta that was found down her throat.
Yeah.
And then a third similar version is that Anna's ex-husband helped hide Bella's body after Van Ralt killed her after an altercation in a local pub. But according to Anna, her ex-husband was haunted by dreams of a skull in a tree and deeply disturbed by the incident. By the time Bella's body was located, Jack Mossop had died in St. George's Hospital in Stafford following a mental breakdown.
Yeesh.
Anna's claims were investigated by both M15 and the police, but no arrests or new developments arose. That must be like the FBI or something.
Yeah, whoever the...
It's unclear how seriously her story was taken, especially since she didn't come forward until 12 years after the body was very publicly discovered and her ex-husband had passed away. 2 more theories. Bella was killed by gypsies. There isn't much to that theory, but
That's just it.
typically circulates, yes. Allegedly, locals of the Hagley Wood area claim that gypsies had been camping within the woods. That sounds like just...
Security Services, M15. Military intelligence, like the FBI or something. Yeah.
And then the 5th is Bella was targeted by a coven of local witches.
Oh, that could be it.
Because the hand was separated from the body. Professor Margaret Alice Murray, a prestigious researcher in folklore and dubbed the grandmother of Wicca, put forth a peculiar explanation. According to her, the removal of Bella's hand and separation from the body was reminiscent of the creation of a hand of glory. A hand of glory is an old European belief that involved the removal of a hanged criminal's hand, the hand that committed the crime, during a lunar eclipse. Who knows?
Wow.
So surprisingly, the occult theory was initially taken seriously by police, especially since the body of a local man named Charles Walton in nearby Lower Quinton had been found pinned to the ground with his own pitchfork and with a cross carved in his chest.
Yikes.
After Professor Murray proposed a link between the cases of Bella in the Witch and the bizarre murder of Charles Walton, Scotland Yard began to pursue this as a potential lead. However, in the end, the police came to the conclusion that the separation of the hand from the corpse was likely due to hungry animals and not a satanic coven. In 2018, speculation around the identity of Bella resurfaced when British anthropologist Caroline Wilkinson created a facial reconstruction of Bella's physical features based on photographs of her skull. Wilkinson had previously made headlines when she created a facial reconstruction of King Richard III when his remains were uncovered. The resulting image of Bella shows her distinctive front teeth and gives a greater identity to the unknown woman. So who knows? Over 75 years later, we're still no closer to the truth. But the sad tale of Bella in the Wych Elm has solidified itself in West Midland folklore, with the story kept alive thanks to the strange graffiti that mysteriously appears periodically around the area.
I think it was the sex worker.
Think she's a sex worker?
I think the sex worker thing, because
Probably, right. That's the most likely.
people do whatever they want to sex workers, and nobody
Yeah.
ever cares. And some guy probably raped her.
Yeah.
The weird thing is putting her in a tree. Like that's
Well, it's one way to hide it, I guess.
Yeah. Just stuff her in that tree. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Wow. Well, thanks for that story. Let's finish up April, shall we?
Let's do it.
And then we'll just figure out what we're going to do from there. April 23rd was a Friday, and French television actor who played Tattoo on Fantasy Island was born in Paris. Hervé Villachez.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that he committed suicide in 1993?
No.
I didn't know that either. But Hervé Villachez was born in Nazi-occupied Paris on April 23rd, 1943, to Evelyn, an Anglo-Italian socialite who was an ambulance driver during World War II, and André Villachez, a surgeon in Toulon. He was the youngest of 4 sons. He was born with dwarfism, likely due to an endocrine disorder, which his surgeon father tried unsuccessfully to cure in several institutions.
Aww.
In later years, Hervé insisted on being called a midget rather than a dwarf.
Oh, really?
Which annoyed his acting contemporary with a smaller condition, Billy Barty, who was an activist who found that term derogatory.
You're right.
Villachez was bullied at school for his condition and found solace in painting. In 1959, at age 16, he entered the École des Beaux-Arts to study art. In 1961, he became the youngest artist ever to have his work displayed in the Museum of Paris. Bet you didn't know that.
I didn't.
Anyway, he left France for the U.S. in 1964, settled in the Bohemian section of New York City, and taught himself English by watching television.
Good for him.
Yeah. April 24th The only shows he watched were shows about planes.
Mm-hmm.
They plane. That's a dumb joke.
Yeah.
April 24th, 1943 was a Saturday, and the fire department of New York responded to a fire on the munitions ship El Estero that threatened to destroy the port. The ship had been loading torpedoes at a pier used by the U.S. Army, caught fire, and began drifting after burning through the lines that tied it to the dock. The FDNY fireboat firefighter spent 7 harrowing hours towing the ship away and then inundating it with enough water to sink it. An explosion of the ship could have set off a chain reaction that would have blown up other ammunition ships. Tanks of natural gas, gasoline, and oil on the shore.
Oh, Jesus.
And it was the largest ammunition dump in the U.S., and so they almost really lost
everything.
It was almost a horrible, horrible thing. All of it located on the Jersey Shore. 12 years later, an author would describe the event as the night New York City almost blew up.
Holy shit.
Yeah. April 27th, 1943, because of German labor needs and occasioned by World War II, Heinrich Himmler directed concentration camps to avoid murdering those people who were able to work and make it a priority to execute just the mentally ill who couldn't work.
Oh, my God.
That's in the German concentration camps.
Yeah.
So,
well.
That awful.
Yes.
April 29th, 1943. They became more lenient because they needed work.
Right.
That's awful. April 29th, 1943 was a Thursday. A Canadian soldier, August Sangret, was 29 years old, was hanged in London's Wandsworth prison after being convicted of killing his girlfriend, Joan Wolfe.
Oh, man.
And that was called the Wigwam murder. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
I thought you were covering the Wigwam murder.
Nope.
That's what I thought you were doing. And then April 30th, 1943, the British submarine HMS Seraph surfaced off the coast of Spain near Huelva and dumped the body of Major Martin into the Mediterranean Sea as part of Operation Mincemeat to deceive general intelligence on plans for an Allied invasion of the continent. We'll get into mincemeat later. But yeah, so that's that episode of American Time. That's January through April.
That worked.
1943. There's a lot to cover. So we're 4 months in, and we'll figure out. I got plenty of things for you to cover, so we can do a few more. So,
okie doke.
Thanks for listening, folks.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for listening to
back.
Amy's wonderful voice.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Amy.
That's me.
Now, say anything, any words of wisdom to everybody?
Vote blue, please.
What'd you say?
Vote blue.
Oh, vote blue. And they said boat blue.
Vote.
And you should boat blue also.
Yeah.
Dress up like a Smurf and go boating. Well, thanks, everybody, for listening. We love you all. Take your shirts off.
Love ya.
Joe and Amy on the air. History for jerks they share. Murder tales and celeb vibes. Craft beer drinks and liberal jives. Amy loves that mystery. Dark true crime history. Joe with birthdays every show. Fun facts you never know. Tune in, it's American Timelines. Laugh and learn every time. History from jerks we adore. Joe and Amy give us more. Laugh and learn every time. History from jerks we adore. Joe and Amy give us more.
Joe and Amy hitting mics, history for jerks. Dropping knowledge on the track, history's quirks. Murder mysteries, Amy's got the craving. Super liberal vibes, schooling all the raving. Joe's on the beat with celeb birthdays, craft beer in hand, celebratory Fridays. Timeline rewind, American rhymes from the past to the present, laughing through the times. Amy got the killer tales, spooky trails from Jack the Ripper to modern jail cells. Joe's on the fame game, stars align. Happy birthday to the legends, toasting with some rhyme. Liberia laugh, stories that be hysterics. Red, blue, doesn't matter, just a mixed dialectic. Podcast, gold chronicles untold. Put in them earbuds, get ready to be so. American timelines, rewind in history. Joe and Amy dropping facts with some mystery. Jerks with the knowledge, no need for degrees. Crack a beer, sit back, ride this podcast breeze. American timelines, down the memory lane. Murder birthdays, it's a wild terrain. Tune in, get schooled, it's not just the same. With Joe and Amy hosting, you'll remember the name.